This week on the Analog Circle podcast, Final Fantasy VII Remake may not release physically anytime soon. Sony updates us on the PlayStation 5's backwards compatibility. We get rumors about when Spiderman 2 will release, and Splash Damage is working on a Google Stadia exclusive. Oh gosh. All of these stories and not too many more, but a few more in episode 120. I am your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and as always, I want to welcome you guys to the Analog Circle podcast. We got a few interesting stories to go over this week, so we're going to jump right into it because I don't want to take up too much of your time. But before we jump into the actual show, I want to let you guys know that if you want to be a part of the show, interact with the show, tell me what's on your mind, you can do that two different ways by either calling in at 443-216-9934 and let your voice be heard, or you can email the show, and the email address is, of course, the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. Also, if you want to check out the podcast on different platforms, you can find it over on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, even YouTube. Just type in the Analog Circle Podcast. I got about 2 subscribers over there. Go head over there and YouTube the show and enjoy yourself. But before we get into the news, with all of that stuff being out the way, I want to go ahead and get into my favorite part of the podcast, and that is, of course, the feedback section. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to, Mr. Vaughn. You have called in again this week, brother. So without further ado, to get this part of the show started, how about you start it off, brother? I'm handing the microphone over to you. You have the floor right now.
What's up, Kiaun? It's Vaughn. Checking in with you once again this week. Jumping into the question from last week, is the future of E3 digital? Well, I kind of gave my thoughts on it last week, is that I definitely think that the ESA has a year ahead of them to make some major changes. They're going to have to do something major to get people back in the building, so we'll see what they do after a year. I believe that these companies are definitely going to go digital going forward, and it's going to be hard for them to convince people to get back in there, but we'll see what they do. But that's my thoughts on that. As far as the specs on the PS5 and Xbox Series X, I see all the fanboys are at it again, and now they're coming after the neutrals like myself that don't have a preference. I play everything. I love everything. Doesn't matter what kind of plastic it's on. But I love it. I love this competition between the companies, not the fanboy aspect of it, but I love the fact that the companies are one-up each other. They one-upping each other and keeping each other fighting for that dollar. It's always good for the players when these companies have each other to kind of make themselves better. To me, it's like a superhero movie. One has super strength, one has super speed. At the end of the day, none of that matters if they don't have the games to play them on. So give me the games. That's when I'll be I'm excited, but that's when I'll be over the top. My question for you this week, Kiaun, speaking of consoles, we got some new consoles coming out that people are forgetting about. We got the Atari VCS and the television Amico. Which one do you think is going to make the bigger impact, and are you planning on getting either one of them? All right, that's me. I'm out. Peace.
As always, Vaughn, thank you so much for your voicemails, brother. I truly appreciate them, brother. I always look forward to hearing you every single week because you always give me some interesting question for myself, which is really cool, man. Now, I do want to go over this voicemail because I ain't going to hold you too long here, brother. But I did hear you say that the fanboys out there on the PlayStation 5 side, they're attacking neutrals, they're attacking people with a preference. They are upset right now. I have seen so many damage control articles out there talking about the SSD like it is the answer. It is gonna save Sony from being the weaker console out here in this next generation. Now, keep in mind, I'm talking about, just like Vaughn said, the fanboys, not people that are just fans of the console itself, people that support the console, people that go out there and buy these games, because it's been quite a few receipts that have been pulled over the last couple of weeks and months of these guys that claim that they are diehard PlayStation fans, and they haven't even went out and bought Horizon Zero Dawn, unlike myself. So we are just completely just talking about those guys. And man, like I was saying, the damage control is serious right now. I mean, good grief, it's on a whole nother level. 10.3 teraflops versus 12 point whatever teraflops the Xbox Series X is gonna have. We're talking about 36 CUs compared to 50 something CUs on the Xbox Series X's side, which have some people believing that the version of RDNA 2 that PlayStation is using isn't really RDNA 2. Now, keep in mind, I am not a spec guy. I'll say a tech guy. I'm not a tech guy. That is not what I am. I just go out here, I look, I listen, and I read. And that is what's being said right now. Because right now, they are saying something else I didn't know, is that 9.2 or 9.3 teraflops that were rumored to be in the PlayStation 5, it's still there, but Mark Cerny, his words, he said that it is overclocked. So that's how they're able to get the 10.3 teraflops. And they were saying that can mess up the heat sink and some other stuff. But here I go. I'm going on a whole nother tangent, brother. My apologies. Let me get back on track. All right, now Vaughn, back to you, brother. My bad, man. You just kind of struck a nerve with me with the fanboyism. But like you said, the competition is good. It's really good. It's great to see Microsoft out there. Phil, he said that they will never lose the Power Crown again. And so far, this guy look, I've been very, very skeptical of Phil Spencer over the last couple of years since he's taken over. Him and his regime, I have said, man, this is not the way, god dang it. I'm not happy with the way he's running Xbox, but right now, and I can only speak for right now, it looks like Phil, he is out there, and I mean, he's out there in a major way. Yes, PlayStation 5, man, they stumbled bad out the gate. Good grief. And I don't think Mark Cerny's his presentation did them any favors. But getting back to what you were saying, Vaughn, I do like the fact that you said you compare the two as like superheroes. One has super strength and one has super speed. But at the end of the day, that really gave me a chuckle, brother. I'm dead serious, man. I'm like, you know what? That's a darn good analogy. I love it. But like you said, Vaughn, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who has the better games, who is giving you that experience that you can get nowhere else. And like I've said time and time again, PlayStation has knocked it out of the park this generation. My goodness, I would say this is the greatest generation that PlayStation has ever had, because they have just had hit after hit after hit. They've went out there and got the marketing. As long as they can continue that, then they're going to be fine, even if their console isn't the most powerful. At the end of the day, it's the games. But the other thing that you asked me, though, Vaughn, because I want to speed this up, brother. I thought I was going to have this done by now. But, man, you guys ask me questions, and I just get excited to hear from y'all. So, I kind of went off on a tangent. But just to get back to your other question, now, this was so interesting to me, Vaughn. That's why I said this question you asked, it was Well, I just said it. It was interesting because you talked about two consoles that are releasing that nobody is talking about. And that's the Intellivision Amico and the Atari VCS. Now, I remember talking about the Atari VCS quite some time ago, and it had gotten delayed because of something that happened. I don't know exactly what it was, but it got delayed like 3 or 4 months, but we still haven't heard anything about it. Now, you asked me, was I getting either one of these consoles? I'm gonna be honest with you, Vaughn. Nah, brother, I'm not gonna do it, brother. It's not quite for me, but I will say that looking at them and seeing what they have under the hood, it's interesting because the Intellivision Amico, as I was looking up the information, they were saying this thing is going to sell for $299, which is heesh. That's a little expensive, brother, because this thing is going to have 2 gigabytes of RAM, and the hard drive is going to be a SD card. That's going to be the storage. I'm like, 2 gigabytes of RAM. That's not going to get you a lot of graphical, power. But I will say, to keep it on the positive side with the Amico, they said that it's going to come with 5 games already pre-installed, and the prices of the games are going to range from $299 to $999, which is really consumer friendly. So I don't know. It depends on what games they're going to have. I'm guessing that by the specs, I didn't write all of the specs down, Vaughn, I'll be honest with you. But, the specs that I read, it looks like they're going to be really a indie heavy box. And I don't know how many people are really going to just dive head first into that. But with the prices being ranging from $3 to $10, that is fantastic, value for what you could possibly get. Now, outside of the Intellivision Amico, like you said, the Atari VCS. Now, I looked this up, and this is running at 4 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, and it's going to have a 32 gigabyte hard drive, and it looks like this thing is going to be retailing for $250. Now, the thing about this that gives me pause, of course, like I said, Vaughn, more than likely I was not going to get either one, but for the Atari VCS, the lead architect, whose name is Rob Wyatt, back in October, he said he wasn't paid in 6 months and he quit. He actually quit the project. So maybe that's why it is in limbo right now and has not, released, or we haven't heard much of anything about it. At least I haven't. You might have some other information that I don't have, Vaughn. But to me, that's not a good sign of things to come. If the lead architect said in 6 months you haven't given me a check and he quits, that makes me think that things are not going as smooth as you would hope they would be for the situation. And I do want to say this, Tommy Tellerico, I got to shout out Gamer Tag Radio because they had a lot of information on this, way more than I was able to find in the time that I had. But I remember on that interview, he did say that they were trying to gear towards families. It wouldn't be any M-rated games on the box. It would be something focused on families and nothing more, nothing less, just families playing together. I don't know how well, as great and as wholesome as that sounds, I don't know how great that would hold up in the real world, man. As humans, we are some messed up individuals, brother. Make no mistake about it. We have messed up ways about us, man. And look, man, I ain't above it, brother. I don't mind shooting some things. I enjoy it. I love it. I love the violence in video games. Does that make me a bad person? Maybe. I don't know. So to have a box out there that's not going to give you any M-rated kind of games, it's going to be, just that focus on family fun. I just don't know how well that's going to go over for the masses. But in short, even though I've been about 7 minutes on this question or so, Vaughn, I just don't think these are gonna really take off, man. I don't. I know both of these consoles, they're great granddaddies of the gaming industry. They have a heck of a lineage when it comes to actually having gaming get to where it's at right now. But I just don't think that trying to reinvent these consoles for a new generation is gonna work too much. Most guys that are in their teens and 20s, I ain't never heard of Atari, or let alone in television, so I just don't know if they would be able to rebrand them for the current day. But Vaughn, I appreciated this question. This was so interesting to me, and it made me have to do some research, so I appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much, man, and please don't let this be the last time hitting me with a voicemail. Thanks again, brother. Now, I want to move on into the next email. Now, this is from my guy. This dude, man, shout out to him. Michael Jakunski, man, this guy is awesome, man. He's helped me out in some ways, and I appreciate it. So, hey, Mike, without further ado, brother, let me go ahead and get into your email. Now, the title of his email is Rest in Peace, E3. He says, hey, Kiaun, thought I'd share some thoughts to your question of the week through official channels. Over the years, E3 has grown from its original purpose as a trade show for retailers/buyers and for industry press. True, the shows have always been reported on to the fans, even going back to the pre-E3 days of CES. God dang, he's right, man. I forgot about that, Mike J. Yeah, that was where it actually spent off into E3. It used to happen at CES. Man, oh man, and pardon my voice, man. I'm still a little hoarse. But he continues to say, I'm sure those of us of a certain age remember seeing the huge multi-page spreads in the magazines of the day covering the upcoming games. Yes, sir, I do. He says over the past decade or so, many of the companies in attendance have begun to cater to the consumer and home audience by broadcasting their press events, and some have gone as far as to allow the download of demos and content that was shown on the floor. And once again, I gotta say, shout out to you again, Mike J, because it was Mike that was telling me that, back in the day, Xbox would actually give demos out, from, games that were on the E3 floor. So let me continue with his email. He says, I think there is a great opportunity for consumer engagement by doing the events like this, but it begs the question, quote, do we really need E3 in the form we currently have? End of quote. If the companies can hold the events on their own and still reach the general audience, why should they pay for the space on the floor? There will still be a need for an industry show, but E3 has grown out of that space and are now competing with the Gamescoms and PAX shows of the world, which are consumer-focused events. To sum it up, I think E3 can survive, but they really need to focus on their purpose and why it exists. The companies will engage with their fans regardless if the show is there, and for that I am grateful. But they will need a good reason to attend E3 in the future. Keep up the great work, Mike J. Hey, man, thank you again, Mike J, for this email. I truly appreciate it. It's always great to hear from you, brother. And man, definitely keep writing in. But let me get into your email though, Mike J. Now, I couldn't agree more. Now, the show has definitely outgrown the retailers. Now, true, it is still important for them to do that, to let these retailers know what they're buying. But like you said, it's been a shift where now the companies are doing these shows with a big focus on their personal consumer, which is us, the gamers. So like you said, the ESA could have a chance at getting publishers back, but they have to give them a real good reason to continue to spend millions of dollars, because I mean, it's almost to the point, just like you said, Mike J, these guys, despite E3 not happening, and this, like you said, I'm grateful too, just like you said, I'm grateful as well that Microsoft, Nintendo, and some of these other publishers are going to figure it out. And they're being, make no mistake about it, they're being forced. Even if they didn't want to, they're being forced to have to figure it out to get that message out to their consumer base. But like you said, the great thing about it is that that's what they do now. They put these shows on. Back in the day, before it was on the internet, you remember you had to tune into G4 TV. God dang, rest RIP to those guys. They were phenomenal when it came to the E3 coverage. I mean, just and a class by themselves. Man, that was just so great to see G4 TV back in the day covering the event. And then it moved to Spike TV, which they had it on. It was another phenomenal event. And now it being online, it just expanded way past anything that we could have ever imagined, because even back then during Spike, it would be commercial breaks and all kinds of sponsorships popping up on the screen. So with it now, we just have so much coverage, and because of that, it does make it very difficult to justify, like I said, millions upon millions of dollars being spent. And just to sum this up, Mike J, because I don't want to get too long with it, brother. I think it's too late for that, though. But to sum it up, you're right. The ESA, they're going to have to give these companies a lot of incentive to come back, because it's so much easier. I mean, despite as bad as the presentation was that Mark Cerny put on with the fake shadow people in the crowd and whatnot, I think they were moving. I don't know. But, despite that, they were still able to get the message out there. And that was for GDC. So how much better would it be, for these companies to get that message out, and they know that they're actually focusing in on their fans. So Mike J, once again, brother, thank you so much for this email. I truly appreciate it. It's just great to hear from you guys. It truly is. It helps the show be better, much better, in my opinion, than it would be with just me talking just about my own thoughts and what I think things are supposed to be. So shout out to you, man. Once again, Mike J, thank you so much, brother. Now we got one last email here, one last one, and this comes from my guy, my dude, shout out to you, brother, Free Fly Ferret. Now, the title of his email is Double Down. He says, I think a cool feature Microsoft could have integrated into the Series X would have been a dual boot mode. God dang. Brother, I ain't gonna lie. Let me read your email, brother. He said, want to play some PC games? Boot into Windows. Want to play some Xbox, boot into Xbox. That was a rumor too. I remember a couple of months ago, might not even been months, might have been maybe a month or so ago. That was the rumor that was going on, that you would be able to dual boot the system, which everybody was going crazy over, like, oh, this would be amazing to see. So, I mean, that would have been absolutely an insane feature, Free Fly Ferret. But he continues on with, let me continue on with the brother's email, God dog. He says, what is something you would like to see them do in the new Xbox? Free Fly Ferret, brother, thank you for this email. That would have been such a dope feature. I just want to say that for the record, to actually be able to have had a console like that, be able to boot in, as it were, PC mode or console mode. You talk about a hybrid. God, dog. And then the performance that the Xbox Series X is able to do with 2080 performance. They got gears up to 100 frames per second, and this isn't hearsay. He said it, she said it. This came from Digital Foundry, who was absolutely super critical of Microsoft, and those guys were very impressed. But let me get on to your question on Free Fly Ferret. Now, for me, I would like for them to give us the option, and I know we have it to a certain degree right now with the X, but I would love for them to give us the option to customize our game experience. Like for instance, like having ray tracing on at 30 frames per second, I said second, God dog, per second, or having it off to run a game at 60 frames per second, or even dropping a game down to 1440p and being able to have ray tracing on running the game at 60 frames per second. I guess kind of like you had alluded to in your email, kind of, having like the PC options for the console player. I think that would be just so dope. I know and understand that ray tracing is going to put a huge damper on your frames. It's going to be tough for I think it's the GPU or CPU, one of those, to actually keep that up at a constant frame rate. So I think that them allowing the player to actually customize what his play style will be. Will he take frames, or will he take performance, or will he take graphics? Let it be up to the player. And I think that at this point, like I was saying before, with the Series X, they already do allow you to do that in certain games. I remember Tomb Raider, they were talking about it. So with a console as beefy as the Series X, I think that would be a great way to have players, that want the frames versus wanting the beauty, to have the best of both worlds and being able to customize it for each console player to concentrate on what's important to them for their play style. But like I said, Free Fly Ferret, thank you again, brother. You've been really writing in a lot. I appreciate all of the support, man. I mean, all three of you guys, I truly appreciate it, man, so much. And please, all three of you guys, please continue to write in. Thank you so much, Free Fly Ferret. Thank you again, Mike J. And shout out to you, Vaughn, as well, man. And Cody Clark, shout out to you too, brother. I know you sent me an email, but I wasn't sure if that was... anyway, shout out to you, Cody Clark. You let me know if that was something you wanted me to read, man. But anyway, with that being said, though, guys, let's go ahead, man. Before we get into the gaming news, it looks like we're getting ready to be in for a long one this week, brothers and sisters. Buckle up. We're at 26 minutes. Oh, my goodness. But the thing is, man, listen, man, I played a few games this week. First game I played that I was into was the Resident Evil 3 Remake demo. Oh, man, I was playing this game. Listen, brother, I must have died like 50, 100 times, man, but it was so beautiful. The game, it's beautiful. That RE engine is a beast. That is a monstrous engine, man. I mean, the graphics on Jill, what's her name? Jill Valentine. It was remarkable seeing the facial detail, seeing when you aim the gun and you shoot at one of the zombies and it looks like it rips through and you can see the flesh actually expanding away from the skull, and just the detail that this game has in it is remarkable. And the thing that has me more excited about Resident Evil 3 Remake than 2 is I never played 3. I got 3 back in the day. I was like, nah, I'm not really feeling this. I'm gonna skip it. And I never went back to it, bought it. Think I traded with a friend for another game, and that was the end of that. But with this, like I was saying, unlike Resident Evil 2, which I had already played through it back on the PlayStation, it was phenomenal. This is a brand new experience through and through for me, and Capcom, they continue to deliver. I mean, my hat goes off to them. I like the fact that this demo was way longer than the Resident Evil 2 demo, which I think was timed at 30 minutes or somewhere around there, and then you couldn't play it again. That was it, which was kind of dope in a way because it made you yearn and fiend to want to play it again, which meant that you were going to more than likely go out and get the game when it was released. But yeah, and I've enjoyed it. Looking forward to it releasing next month, and things are looking up, brothers. They looking up for Capcom. They keep on batting 1,000, man. They doing fantastic. But the other game that I played this weekend, man, this was highly anticipated on my list, was Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Oh my gosh. Let me tell y'all, I'm banging on my desk, pardon me. This game was, because I'm still playing through it. This game is phenomenal. You hear me? It is absolutely phenomenal, man. I mean, the gameplay is buttery smooth. The graphics are lush, plush. I mean, it's just a beautiful game. I mean, through and through. the platforming. I mean, I was reading the reviews, and you know how sometimes things just seem like they're being blown out of proportion, like it can't be that great. But the platforming is so precise. And the thing I really, really love about this game, outside of the gameplay being great, the graphics being great, is some of the upgrades that they've done to the game. Now, if you were a person that played the original Ori and the Blind Forest, you'll notice some changes right away, where they don't have you wait so long to get certain abilities, where in the first one, it was spaced it out maybe a little too far at times. So you'd be like, golly, I can't get any abilities, you know. But in the Will of the Wisp, they give you abilities a lot faster. I mean, key abilities, and you get weapons faster as well. And the other thing that I like about the game too, just to kind of give you a little more, I guess, depth to the world, is they actually have other characters that you meet along the way, you know, where they need you to do side missions for them. They have a weapons dealer. I mean, this guy got all kinds of stuff in an arsenal for you if you need it. You know, being able to upgrade Ori, it's just such a fantastic game so far. I have thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to jumping back into it. I'm stuck on this one part where the enemies, man, I mean, good grief, they are getting hard, man. They're getting really hard already. And it's like, it's this wave of enemies that are coming at me. And my energy, I think I only have like 3 orbs of energy right now. And these jokers are taking like 1.5 orbs, seems like, from one hit. So I'm having to move around, dodge, and the weapons that you get. I got this sword kind of thing, which is way better than the game, the previous one, the Blind Forest, where you had this orb that was shooting out these, you know, like not lasers, but some kind of, I don't know, magic kind of something, as it was laser. Let's just say laser. Let's just keep it simple. Yeah, but having a like a sword and being able to swing, I mean, it's just such a great game. It was worth every single nickel and dime that I spent on the collector's edition. And the collector's edition, let me talk about that. I did open it, of course I did. Got there and I played the game. It comes with another disc in there that's full of the piano melodies, and oh my gosh, the soundtrack. The soundtrack is it's luxurious. It is just some of the most beautiful music, and it's just great. The soundtrack is amazing, man. The composer, I'm forgetting his name right now. This guy did a phenomenal, not phenomenal, phenomenal job on the soundtrack. The game is just, it's like they're in their perfection. And I want to also add this too. I know a lot of people were having trouble with the game, the frame rate, and it was just really bad. You know, it was horrible, you know, those first couple of days out. I did have to download the patch. I think it was like 5 gigs to download it. And so far, I haven't had any of those problems where some guys, their frame rate was dipping into like single digit numbers, like 7 and 8 frames a second. I haven't run into anything like that, but I will say that it's been certain times with the music where it kind of skips just a little bit, like you can tell, and it gets a little staticky at times. It hasn't been something that's been reoccurring a lot, but in certain parts of the game that does happen, so they may still have to do some more work with that. But outside of that, so far the game has been absolutely fantastic, well worth the money. Like I said, the collector's edition, it came with the disc of music, the piano music. You also have a code. I have a code where I can download some of the other original music that's in the game, as well as a hardback book that shows the artwork. And man, it's beautiful, man. It's absolutely beautiful. Great art book, nice case that it comes in. Well, it's inside of the box, so it's all a case. But anyway, I feel like I'm rambling at this point. Ori, fantastic. If you got Game Pass, get it. If not, It's worth $30, man. Definitely get it. But I also want to let you guys know somebody did redeem that code that I gave out for the $25. They didn't hit me up in the show. I just went on Xbox Live and just typed it in for myself, said it was already redeemed. So shout out to that person who was able to redeem it. Hopefully you were able to use it towards something that you really enjoyed. But let's go ahead and move into, man, because god dang, we 34 minutes in, during there 35. This was supposed to be a real short show. But let's go ahead, guys, without further ado, and let's go ahead and get into what we all come here for, the gaming news. There went down. So let's get started. All right. So in the vein of Sony finally coming out and talking about their specs, Sony has given us updated info when it comes to their backwards compatibility. This is the quote. With all the amazing games in PlayStation 4's catalog, we've devoted significant efforts to enable our fans to play their favorites on PlayStation 5. We believe that the overwhelming majority of the 4,000 plus PlayStation 4 titles will be playable on PlayStation 5. End of quote. So, oh, no, that's not the end of the quote. Sony also said, we're expecting backwards compatible titles will run at a boosted frequency on PlayStation 5 so that they can benefit from higher or more stable frame rates and potentially higher resolutions. End of quote. So this was the big thing that people had a problem with. They saw that Microsoft, they already made their plans very early on, letting you guys know, letting us know that the Xbox was going to be backwards compatible with the original, the 360, and, with the Xbox One. They already let that be known with all of the things that they were able to do. They made sure that that was one big point that they were stressing. So now everybody looks over, and this is why, once again, like Vaughn says, like we all say, competition, we should welcome it. Never, ever want one company to go away versus the other one so that they can shine and the other company just dies off. Because if Microsoft didn't put such a focus on backwards compatibility, would Sony had come out so soon? Because this came out the next day after Mark Cerny went up there, said what he said about the 100 plus titles that were the most highly rated or played, something like that. People automatically gave them backlash and they said, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, gotcha. Guess what? We're going to make sure that the 4,000, most of them are going to work. And like I was saying before, if Xbox hadn't put such an emphasis on this, I truly don't think that PlayStation would have really gone this hard or come out this fast to try to correct that ship. So my hat goes off to them for actually coming out in front of this so quickly. And we'll have to see, though. I mean, if these games are going to benefit from, the boosted frequency, being able to have better frame rates, better resolution, then that's going to be fantastic. I would love to play God of War at 60 frames per second if it's possible, So, I mean, competition is great. It is bad that they don't have it with the PlayStation 1, 2, and 3. And we know that the 3, they say that it's because of the cell processor that would make it very hard. But that's the downside. With the Xbox, of course, they said that they still have to make sure that they're able to get all of these things running and working. So don't, quite hold them to all of them. But we do know that that is definitely a emphasis of their future plans on all of their consoles to have them be backwards compatible with each other. So, I mean, like I said, man, this is good news. We'll have to see how it comes out, what happens with it. And hopefully, PlayStation will be able to have most of this 4,000 be backwards compatible and not the 100 plus that they were talking about before. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with this situation. Moving on into some Final Fantasy VII Remake news. Now, the release date for a physical release could be in trouble. Now, here is Square Enix direct quote. They say, while our goal is to ensure that everyone can play the game on day one, it is increasingly likely that deliveries may be affected in select markets due to supply chain disruptions and potential brick and mortar retail closures resulting from governmental quarantine policies. End of quote. So it looks like, I believe at this point in time, don't quote me on this, but Amazon, I think they said that most things they're not shipping right now unless it's medical supplies or just, everyday things that you need, like soap or something, just things that are basic needs of what we need. I think that may have something to do with this. I know a lot of people, they went out there and they bought the Final Fantasy VII Remake, the collector's edition, which was beautiful, but way too much money for me. It looks like that's going to be delayed, as well as the game itself. Now, that was about all they said about this situation. And I mean, it makes sense, but man, how tough is that going to be? Me, I wanted it physically. I did not want it digitally. And it looks like if you want to play this game early on, either you're going to have to get to the stores very fast because I'm sure the quantities are going to be extremely limited, or you're going to have to download it digitally, which I would say that is a positive because at least we don't have to wait, an extended period of time. Can you imagine if this was back in like 2005 or 2006 before these infrastructures of digital games were, created and, built up to the point where they are now? People would be going insane. So at least as it stands right now, you still will be able to get it. Looks like definitely digitally. But if you're like myself and you like to collect the physical discs, unfortunately, looks like it could be a delay. We'll have to see what happens. But moving on into the next story. Now, this next story is a rumor that was spotted on Reddit. So take this, all of this information that I'm about to spew to you guys with a mustard seed of truth. But the Spider-Man sequel, this leaker is saying it could be releasing in 2021. So according to this leaker, he has an anonymous source at Insomniac who claims the sequel will be taking place shortly after the first game and will be set during the winter. It's also being said that the world will be even bigger, expanding to Queens and Brooklyn. Now, the leaker also says that the main villains, which this is very interesting, the main villains will be Carnage, Mysterio, and Venom, with the story focusing on Harry Osborn. Now, Miles Morales, according to the leaker, once again, he will be making a comeback and will be a playable character for certain segments of the game, but Insomniac is unsure whether to let the player free roam as him. End of quote. Now, the sequel is also allegedly getting an update to the web-slinging mechanics, calling it, quote, web chain, featuring animations and swing modes. Now, these swing modes are said to be realistic, arcade, and hybrid. Now, man, I can't imagine. I mean, I don't know. When did Spider-Man come out? Was that 2018 or so, I believe, 2018? That would mean that if my math is right, I mean my release date is right, year, 2018, that would be 3 years that Insomniac would have to have worked on this. And I do remember reading that one of the producers did say that the game was already underway. They were already working on part 2, but I just don't know, man. That seems like a heck of a turnaround, for a game as big as Spider-Man and the quality that Spider-Man had to it. I mean, that game was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the ending, no spoilers, but that ending, it touched me, man. I mean, the voice acting, just the amazing graphics, the facial detail. I don't know if you can do that in 3 years. I mean, would I want to see it come out in 2021? You got doggone right. I would love to see this game out in 2021, but I just don't know how realistic that timeline is. I mean, man, just the different villains that they're going to have in this game. I mean, Venom and Carnage alone. I mean, Mysterio, I guess he's cool. I really don't know too much about that guy. But having Venom and Carnage, if that's true, oh my gosh. What a heck of a game this could be. But once again, before I get all hype and, just think in my mind going 100 different ways, this is a rumor. We'll have to wait and see. Now we will know. Now, this is the way we won't even have to wait long to know if this rumor is true or not. Because if this game is coming out next year, it is no way that Sony gets up on the alleged E3 stage, as it were, and not mention that Spider-Man 2 is releasing in 2021. We will definitely find out way sooner than later if this rumor is true. And having the world be so much bigger than what it was in the original, golly, I mean, it's so many things about Spider-Man, that game, that I loved. I mean, being able to actually land on the ground level and it be life on the ground level. I mean, cars moving around, taxis. It was just, man, so unexpected for a Spider-Man game, because I was so used to Spider-Man games always being in the air. You're always climbing on buildings. You never touch down onto the ground. And Insomniac just did such an amazing job with this. I just, once again, don't know if 3 years is enough. But anyway, we will find out very, very soon. Let's go ahead. Well, before we move on, man, I thought another interesting thing, though, I got to put this out there, was this swing mode. Now, what do these swing modes mean? I mean, listening to how it's described, realistic, maybe having to have more timing with your webs, actually having to have it actually grapple onto a building or a surface, maybe to keep Spider-Man going. Maybe that's an option. Or if you want to go into arcade, I'm sure that's the way that the game was originally. Just hit the web and he'll just automatically connect to something, or a hybrid. I have no idea what that could be, but I'm so interested to see how true this is, and if it's taking place just shortly after where the first game ended. Man, you know what happened at the end. It's no spoilers. I'm not going to spoil it, but a lot happened at the end, man. So a lot of things Peter Parker will have to deal with. This could be so dope if it's true. But let's go ahead and looking at this time, let's go ahead and move on. Try to get y'all out of here in an hour, man. Now, for diehard BioWare fans, there is a book being released on October 13th entitled Stories and Secrets from 25 Years of Game Development Releases. So outside of the book, this sounds really cool, man. But outside of the book talking about KOTOR and Mass Effect, which are the games that everybody knows about, the most interesting aspect of the book to me is the promise that the book will detail secret canceled projects that they were working on. Now, the book will come in a hardcover with the length being around 200 pages long and will feature never before seen art and photos anchored by candid stories from developers past and present. Now, if you're interested in this, you can pre-order the book over at Amazon for $40. Let's hope that it ships. Like I said, it comes out in October, so that's plenty of time. Hopefully by that time, this COVID-19 situation will be taken care of. They'll have a vaccine and will be great. But I thought that this was so nice, man, because I am a pretty big BioWare fan. I mean, the KOTOR, classic. Mass Effect, classic. I mean, just their lineage, what they've brought to gaming has been felt, I mean, my goodness, for like 2 generations now. Almost 3 generations. Their storytelling, their options, so many people have implemented things that BioWare have done into their games. It is just amazing to see that they are finally going to have a book to talk about canceled and secret projects that happened that us, the regular gamer, never would have known about. I can't wait to read and hear about some of these things that were canceled or cut, or was Mass Effect. Did Mass Effect actually spin into something before it was actually Mass Effect? I mean, it's just so many different things that I know they're going to be talking about in this book. And for $40, that ain't going to break the bank. You know, it's not that bad, but it depends on how much of a diehard fan of BioWare you are. But like I said, it's up on Amazon right now for $40. Go ahead and pre-order it, brothers and sisters. Now, moving on into a quick news story. Splash Damage, man, they are actually working with Google Stadia on an exclusive title. Now, here's the quote from Chief Executive Officer Richard Jolly. Man, I like that last name, Jolly. That's cool, man. Now, his quote is, we're thrilled to finally announce that we're working on an exclusive title in partnership with Google Stadia. End of quote. Now, if you're interested, if you're not familiar with Splash Damage, which I'm sure most of you guys are, but if you're not, just to give you a little background on them, they worked on a game called Brink. I believe that was back in 2011. And they also worked on Gears 5 multiplayer. And more recently, they're just, I'm sure, finishing up on Gears Tactics. So they have, I mean, don't get me wrong. I played Brink. Brink was actually, I'll say this, Brink was not... Yeah, y'all heard the pause, brothers. It wasn't necessarily a bad game. I'll say the positive thing about Brink, right, was the movement system. It was a smooth moving game. It was very smooth. But yeah, man, yeah. Let's concentrate on some of that more positive things. Like Gears 5, the multiplayer in that was great. You know, Gears Tactics, I mean, that game is shaping up to be something great, even though Microsoft, Phil Spencer won't say when it's coming to console. We don't know. But I mean, nonetheless, hopefully it'll be coming out soon. But yeah, they've got a deal with them, and we'll have to see what kind of game it is. I don't know if it's going to focus on multiplayer or if it's going to be a single player, because it seems like for the most part, the games that they have worked on have been really multiplayer focused. I even think they did Gears 4's multiplayer as well. So we'll have to see, man. I mean, multiplayer games, they sell. They do great. And Google Stadia, they need an original hit on their hands right now. They need one bad. So we'll see what happens in the wash with this situation. Now, moving on. Now, I'm not quite moving on. I mean, I kind of wrote this in bad order, so pardon me. But I did want to talk about why Final Fantasy VII is broken into episodic parts, because a lot of people they are still mad about this. Now, I'm not taking up for god dog on Square Enix. I ain't on their payroll, brother. You know, so I mean, this doesn't make me any never mind, but I do like to try to at least give, you know, the developers or the teams the benefit of the doubt, just being a fan of gaming. But it was explained why it was broken up into parts. Now, this is according to producer, once again, Yoshinori Katase. I don't know if I'm saying that brother's name right, but his quote is, in order to make the entire game as a single release work as a modern game, we wouldn't be able to go for the highest visual quality, and we'd also have to cut back on areas and scenes from the original. End of quote. So whether or not that is a good enough excuse for you guys, that is up to you guys. But it seems like he wanted to actually go for the visual quality to be as high as it could, and he wanted to make sure that the areas were big and you know at least a lot bigger than they were in the original. And I believe in one of the buildings, they were saying that they had actually added an extra floor onto it or something like that. Now, this could be a very bogus excuse for a lot of people like, oh, man, come on, man. The PlayStation 4 was making visuals like God of War. What you mean? You mean to tell me you couldn't make this game have the same visual fidelity if it was a full game? Listen, brothers, I don't know. I'm just reporting the news, man. That's it. But, I mean, that's what he's saying. Do I believe him? I don't know, maybe. But anyway, we're going to go into the last story, man. I might just get you guys out of here in an hour, man. And I will be honest, this show has been horrible so far, brothers. I feel like I've done a terrible job reporting the news. But we're going to go ahead and get into the final story. Now, Control is getting a patch on March 26th, which will make the map easier to read, which of course that was a huge complaint from a lot of players. Now in this update, it will also include a new ability called Shield Rush that will allow protagonist Jessie, I believe her name is, to pull rubble from around the environment to make a shield in front of herself and then rush head first into enemies. Now, the patch will also revise the ability tree and add a feature to let players relocate Jessie's ability points. Now, I do want to say this. On top of that, they have this foundation, this thing called the Foundation that's going to be releasing where I think the main character, Jessie, I believe that's her name, is going to be walking around some kind of house and trying to find out some mysteries about it. That is actually going to be releasing as well on March 26th. But if you have the Xbox One version like myself, you'll have to wait until June 25th to actually get that part of the added features. So I mean, I have Control. Like I said, I bought it maybe 2 weeks after it came out, maybe a week and a half, and I actually downloaded it, but I have not played it. When people were telling me about the map and saying how difficult it was to read it and people were moving around in circles, I was like, I don't feel like dealing with that right now. I'll go ahead and move into something else. So that's what happened with that. But yeah, this looks like this will be great for people that were having that problem with the map, and her having a new ability that only adds to the game. But anyway, guys, that is the end of the gaming news this week. My goodness. Now, guys, I want to get into the final section of the podcast because, man, I'm darn near the hour, and this feels great, man. Feels good to be able to get you guys out of here on time, you know. And I know some of you might say, well, Kiaun, why do you really care about getting people out of here in a certain time frame? It's just, man, look, brothers, I don't like to be long-winded. It's just me doing the show, and sometimes I feel like my voice just may get a little annoying. So I just want to make sure that I get you guys in and out. I don't want to be a long podcast, you know. So an hour, I try to pride myself on it, but sometimes it has slipped, as you guys know. But anyway, this week's question is, will the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X still release in 2020? Now, I got to say, being a truck driver, man, hey, brothers, I have seen some things out there. I mean, seeing traffic that would be full in certain areas really go down to it's not like completely dead. It's still cars moving and going. But wow, what a drastic change in certain areas. I was up in Buffalo, New York, last week on Friday, and it's this truck stop that I go to where they have some great food. It's Jim's Truck Stop, and I go inside there, you know, to get food, you know, every once in a while. And I mean, this place was packed the heck up. I mean, they were like, "Sir, we know you. You're cool. We like you, but you cannot sit down." I mean, the chairs were packed, salad bar was packed up. I mean, it was dark in certain parts of the building. And I'm like, golly, this is looking kind of bad. And they're like, well, yeah, it's been kind of rough. So, you know, just seeing that along with other various things, it really makes me wonder. I know these companies are saying, you know, Microsoft and Sony are saying that these systems are still on track, and we're going to be getting them this year. And I do want to say that Microsoft, they actually retracted that Thanksgiving 2020 release date on their website. So it makes me wonder, are they really going to release this year under these conditions? I just don't know. I think the plant that actually ships and puts these consoles together for shipment is a place called Foxconn, and I believe they're in China somewhere. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that place is shut the heck down right now. So, I mean, that's why I'm asking this question. We heard, we remember just a couple of weeks ago, E3, the ESA was saying we're going forward with the with E3 plans. We're still on track, and all of a sudden, that got taken off the table very fast. So, I mean, we just don't know. But anyway, that is my question to you guys this week. If you want to be a part of this conversation, you can do it two different ways. Like I said before, either call in at 443-216-9934 and let your voice be heard, or you can email the show, and the email address is theanalogcirclepodcast@gmail.com. I was your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and as always, it is fantastic hanging out with you guys. I thank you guys for downloading the show, tuning into the show, showing your support. It really means so much to me, and I can't thank you guys enough. But with that being said, guys, until next week when we do it again, before we get out of here, always remember, it is not about the consoles. It is about the games. So you guys take care out there, because, man, we living in rough times. But we will be back to do it again next week. But until then, like I say every week, you guys take care. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.